Okay, it's colorful now.
All right, success.
Did you enable? Okay, perfect.
Yep. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I began making videos. Prior to the pandemic, uh, I had always wanted to go to film school, but there was a filmmaker in my hometown who advised me against it at the local video store. So, anyways, my friend who is here, Adam Garnett, kind of served as a creator for my poetry films for Laura's class. And given the time I had in the pandemic, I started making my own. What you're seeing now is the result of hundreds of layers of transparent images that I stole and layered on top of each other, or procured, plundered, whatever word you acquired, whatever word you want. But they've been rendered abstract. In the background, there is a noise soundtrack. And one of the things I realized in the pandemic was that I missed making music. I was in bands in high school and a little ways in college, played some instruments a little bit. So I started making music, but the only music I could make was just noise. And it slowly evolved into other things. But I'm going to leave this playing while I read as kind of a metaphor for the whole process of creation in the apocalypse. Um, So at the very onset of the pandemic, there was obviously rage, and Laura's been kind enough to give me a platform to express a lot of that rage early on. So that's documented with her. But there was also a lot of grief, and grief doesn't come out as urgently as anger. It often settles and then has to work its way out. Um, so some of my poems following the anger were grief poems, and I leaned into the uh, comparisons of the corona pandemic to the AIDS pandemic. I don't believe they're comparable politically, but for the sake of a poem, I came to this. And this is a narrative poem called There Are Places I Cannot Go. And it takes place in the wake of the AIDS epidemic, a person who survived their lover. There are places I cannot go in our house anymore. There are places where I see you, smiles and cigarettes, talking with your hands and smoke dancing in an argument with the air. Couch, I address him sometimes. Have you felt weight? I wait today. And no ghosts, we agree. The circles for pacing get smaller every day, and the refrigerator brings me chills, pangs of loneliness, thinking of the faded bodies inside, the mysterious light going off when it's off and on when it's on. The bathroom where washcloths fell off slumped shoulders into dinged water with piss and dead skin, soap and slough. No after image in the closet, lack of reflection in all mirrors, the bed in the bedroom half untouched, empty of weight and heavy with lightness. Where can I walk? One of our cats runs to the places where cats go and humans can't find them, another to rooms too haunted for spirits to visit, and the third cat is dead, mewing at the feet of you as he follows you from a dawn dew covered bed into the kitchen where the refrigerator light shines on your apparition as you take out the cream for your coffee and the last half of a can of tuna to dump into the bowl where we put pictures of ourselves so that the cats won't miss us when we're on vacation. I don't go into the hallway anymore. I think I hear your keys in the door and purring. Thank you. Um, Laura was kind enough to introduce me to a good number of poets, one of which is Barrett Watton. Um, and I bought Barrett Watton's kind of now classic book, Bad History, uh, early on into the pandemic. And reading his bad history inspired me to examine my own in this static place of the duration, as Laura calls it, of this apocalypse. And what I noticed early in the pandemic, kind of after the initial grief subsided as I was trying to process, was that there was a cacophony of information. It was overwhelming at all times. There was information coming about Black Lives Matter and about the pandemic and about Trump, and I simply couldn't sort through all of the information in a meaningful way. Much like the images you see here, these layers, these transparent layers of narrative that are rendered hopefully beautiful but confusing. I decided to dive into lack of legibility. I wanted to see what incoherence was on the page. So I decided I was going to read 3 books simultaneously. I laid them out side by side and I turned the TV on and I watched movies nonstop. And as I was reading, I would write about my life as I was inspired. But then as the next line that I read distracted me, or the TV distracted me, or my partner said something, or the doorbell rang, or I heard a word outside, I would put that into the poem as well. So everything here is collision. This poem is called Picnic at Hanging Rock because that was the title of the film I was watching at the time. And it begins with a quote by Barrett Watton from Bad History. Vicious displays, logics of presentation, intensities of analogy, the museum of childhood. 1. Picnic at Hanging Rock. You better go. Bell rings. Something terrible has happened. We left her behind. Very well. Country wet freshness. She didn't know that her toe was hanging by a single flap of skin. Years later, a step-niece who was never married, the aunt says, and therefore not my family. Her 2-year-old toe chopped off at the knuckle looks like a kernel of corn and no blood. After the bombing, machine gun fire, they took her to the hospital. She was about as far away as the dead trees over there. Funny how I'd rather not say black, noiseless balloon for the bloodhound. Blood brothers consider themselves to hold all property in common, including wives. The life of fake eyelashes. Smart girl with tears, naked, vodka, godlike. It hurts more to remember than it did when it happened. Hanging loose, bleeding on the floorboards. What the hell am I going to tell them when I get there? Tell them whatever you want. All right, carry on then. Thank you, sir. The sound of a flute, a man smoking in bed, the Australian sunrise or sunset, hand reaching for torn paper. What is recorded? 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 Another ritual? Multiple cuts along the chest. Personal weapons. Rites practiced in light of the elders. Witness this. Witness this. It was a rusty can, barefoot. She was a woods girl. Discarded lid from a time before the word litter was invented, relic of men camping, of family long gone, dead, no foundation left to belie their living, maybe a solitary snack of alone time. If any of this is real, she'd have a scar, right? She should have a scar. People have scars. That's what scars are, marks of history. Starfish are on my eyes. I could hear everything when she was bursting out in tears, and it hurts so much to use force. So much more does it hurt to tolerate that force. Thank you. Okay. At work, I'm a teacher. We have a very liberal school. There are several out gay teachers, queer teachers. I am one of them. It was Gay History Month, LGBTQ History Month, and I was teaching a lesson on LGBTQ history as a school assembly. One of my coworkers said they could not work with me because it was against their religion. And they were allowed to do this because of religious freedom arguments. So this poem was written in response to all of the frustration and pain and discomfort that I felt in being kind of denied my personhood and forced into a space with this person on a day-to-day basis. Because the poem was written in the pandemic and all of the pain is tied together, it's impossible to separate things that happen in the duration from each other. It's all one wound. The poem opens with this person who is a street preacher, a video I found of them preaching. And it's intermingled with the woman who stripped naked and did yoga as protest. And what you will hear is three voices. This is a poem for three voices. None of them are mine, and that is important. This poem needed to be completely externalized in order to excise any pain that I had. It's called mudra, and mudras in Hinduism are shapes you make with your hands for specific purposes, but the actual word mudra means to mark or to scar. So we are looking at the mark of words, the scars of experience, and the practice of holding ourselves in healing ways. I did the music and the video, and then the voices are friends of mine.
They're calling her Naked Athena. The stark naked woman saunters right up to armed federal agents in the middle of a tense standoff and strikes a series of poses. It's a surreal contrast. Totally naked woman versus cops covered in full protective gear, gas masks, and helmets. The drama unfolded on the 50th consecutive night of the Battle of Portland.
I hold my hands like this.
Sometimes I wish I were angrier.
Less angry. I hold my body like this.
Sometimes I wish I had faith.
Or energy. Everything is a posture.
Sometimes I forget not to smile.
Sometimes I forget. I hold my hands like this. Nothing is improvised. Everything felt. Blindness as awareness. Acute, asana, a bow.
I can imagine myself in flow, one in a school of fish, stream and current, fighting my way home like salmon do.
I can imagine the yoga of protest, naked, calm, full breaths and bend.
I hold my body like this. Most of the pose is invisible. None of it is ever in stillness.
Arrogance, perhaps, or dedication. Hubris, I think, of making oneself a stone in the river.
Everything changes when you breathe.
Everything is a posture, uncomfortable comportment, a bend without a flex, and freedom there, no penance.
Hair shirt aesthetics.
The lash and communion.
I hold my hands like this.
Car horns and bullhorns.
Hell, 3 sizes too big.
I hold my body like this.
He holds a sign.
Repent is a posture.
Everything is a posture.
A fist is a stone. A brick is a brick. A voice is not a gun, but perhaps the bullets, or
movement to agency. Nearer, further away.
I hold my hands like this.
Sometimes I wish I were angrier.
Everything changes when you breathe.
I hold my body like this.
Sometimes I wish I had faith.
Everything changes when you breathe.
Everything is a posture.
You can let go.
You can let go.
Let go.
Let go.
Let go.